Hello and welcome to the channel. So I wanted to just share a little bit about my experience with YouTube this year, because I know when I started this channel it was really super useful to see other people sharing how they got on with the process. So I won't drag it out. I will tell you now how long it took me to get monetized, and it was 7 months. So from that first video in January, I wasn't monetized until August. So it's a fairly long period of time to keep pushing on something. So I sort of set myself this goal that if I could get the channel to make about £200 a month, or it's like $260 US every month from something I could do in my spare time, then I would consider that a real win. That would be great. It would be, I love making films. It would be a nice little bit of extra money each month. And of course, in terms of my expectations of subscribers and monetization, I kind of said to myself in January that if I was monetized by Christmas, that would have been a good achievement. I'd be happy with that. As it happened, both of those goals have been achieved much faster than I thought. So I'm really pleased with that, and I'm going to sort of go through my process here over those first few months and show how it panned out, because there's a couple of points I think where it would have been easy to look at it and sort of give up. I was sitting at 60 subscribers and maybe 1 or 2 a day, and you're thinking, okay, how am I ever going to get to the 1,000 subscribers to be monetized? And then there's the view hours, which is almost, it is unfathomable to think you're going to hit that 4,000 view hours when you've just got a couple of those videos and they're trickling along. So this is my journey, starting from no experience at all to where I am now. In this video, I'm going to just go up to the point at which I got monetized, and in another video I'm going to show how much money it's made in the first 3 months since being monetized. So make sure you subscribe so that you get notified for that, and do hit that bell button, because YouTube might think you're not interested in the video and not even show you. So it's pretty ruthless with that. So do hit that bell button to make sure you get the notification when I make a new film. So I've got the view filtered here from the start of the year through to the point that I had just reached the monetized criteria. So I've just got the 4,000 view hours and over the 1,000 subscribers. So I'll quickly go through this timeline of the videos I released, and you can see what kind of frequency I was making them. And then I'm going to jump into some of the key ones that were the most influential in this process, I think, and look at some of the interesting events that happened after I released those. So I have no other YouTube channels. I want this to be totally transparent. Sometimes when you watch these sort of videos of people explaining their experience with YouTube, you're not quite sure if this is just a new channel they've made and they've got 5 other really successful ones, so they really know what they're doing. I was totally new to this. I do have a background as a filmmaker, so I'm kind of happy with the process of the technical process of making a film, but the format of YouTube obviously was completely new to me, and it was definitely a big learning curve. So this channel's actually been around for a long time. If you look at the About tab, it says it's 2007, I think. So I created the YouTube channel back then. I'm not quite sure what I intended to do with it. I did actually go on to publish a little video that I made on YouTube in 2008. That's still live, and I'll link to it in the description. It's quite amusing. It was me, and a very long time ago. Of course, it didn't really do much at the time, so I just put the whole idea on the back burner. Funnily enough, over the years, that video did accumulate quite a few views. But anyway, I've just left the whole thing for a long time, and it wasn't until 2020, January this year, that I thought, let's give it a real go. So the first video I made was this, how to control the Dyson fan with the HomeKit infrared Raspberry Pi setup. Really geeky, 20-minute long video. It didn't get anywhere in search at all. Still very few views per day after releasing that one. So I carried on making videos, did a bit more on Dyson and Peak Design bags. And then I started getting into the sort of more, workflow based ones, where I was talking about backup routines and filing systems. Again, they didn't get anywhere in search, so still nothing happened. Then we get into lockdown, and I sort of changed tacks towards focusing on the working from home series. So I made those and then sort of released them all together. So there was a little bit of a longer delay there. So actually, when I made that very first video in January, I had about 20 subscribers on the channel who had obviously, just subscribed to me, friends and family, and some views from that old camera review I did in 2008. So I started with 20 subscribers. Then obviously, to get monetized, you need to hit 1,000 subscribers and get the 4,000 view hours total viewing time in the last 12 months. So that's always that big worry is, okay, if you going towards the 4,000 view hours, what happens if it's, not in the 12 months? You start losing them again. So that's that big risk. You've got to do it quite quickly to make it happen. So my intention for this channel was to create a kind of tech channel, but also really focusing on the design elements and also workflow. So design as a concept, obviously products are designed for a certain reason. It's usually to achieve certain goals. So that's what's really interesting to me, is exploring how design in products, works, and in terms of their user experience from our perspective when we use them. So that's what I wanted this channel to sort of be about, but also exploring designing my own solutions using these products to achieve certain things as well. So kind of creating workflows and exploring how all this stuff can work. So lots of ideas in my head, and I thought, it'd be great to get them out there and maybe someone would find them interesting too. So that's where I came at this from. If that sounds interesting to you, do hit subscribe and explore the rest of my channel too. Then I did this one. Now this was the first one that actually went sort of into doing quite well in search. So I carried on making films again, and then went back to another Dyson one, sort of full review of this Dyson fan. And again, that one started to boost things up quite nicely. And then I started making videos on the keyboards, and again, had reasonable success with those ones. In particular, this one here. So that was 29th of May. That one sort of started doing quite well as a suggested video. We'll look at the analytics for that in a second. And then I sort of just carried on, making the kinds of films that I wanted to make, a bit more on the Dyson stuff and the keyboards. So then I got to the point where it was monetized, and you can see there's a big spike here, which was the Moonlander, but obviously a lot of interest in that product. So I think I was sort of among the first to cover that on YouTube. So those kinds of things are great. If you can cover a topic where there's a bit of demand for it and you're the first on the scene, YouTube obviously recognizes that and sort of, helps you get those views. So after 7 months, by the time I was just monetized, I'd made 24 videos. I haven't deleted any videos that I've posted, so you can see the full kind of history of where I've got to. So I actually hit the 1,000 subscribers some way before reaching the 4,000 view hours. So I'd actually got about 1,700 subscribers by the time I'd reached the 4,000 viewing hours, which meant obviously those first monetization videos, in theory, I had 1,700 people sort of being exposed to the videos after that point. So, that's the interesting thing about all of this, of course, is that the more subscribers you have, the potential for more views each time you release a new video. And of course, it's that can help the total revenue each month if you make the videos. So let's go straight into the analytics for this one. And we can see, if we click see more here, I'll just filter the dates by the same period of time here. You can see there's a big spike there. Traffic source, if we do this, we can see where they were all coming from. So that was suggested videos. So there was a point here where YouTube decided to really just, throw a lot of traffic at this video, and then it backed off. So, whether or not it didn't really like how well it did after that, I'm not sure, but it's fun to see it do that. So then it sort of maintained this fairly steady state and dwindled off. Fuji released some software for the camera that did what I was doing in a different way as well. So it became sort of superseded by new information, and that's obviously then dwindling as a result. So you can see within that period of time, just before I got monetized, that video helped me get those 54 subscribers. So again, still quite a small slice of the picture, 315 view hours of the 4,000. If we scroll down here, we can see the average view duration, again, actually quite low, even though the percentage is reasonably high, but there's a reasonably good sort of chunk here. So we're going to look at the analytics for this Dyson fan review now, because that was one of the ones that really sort of took off relatively well. I'm just going to change that back to the same period of time. So you can see this one got 340 subscribers. So that, that helped me on the way to the 1,000 subscribers quite nicely. And you can see this peak here and another peak here. And now, interestingly, both of those coincided with heat waves here in the UK. So you can see how, interestingly, YouTube is very clever at picking up those kinds of environmental differences, whether or not there's a boost in searches for fans in the heat wave, and then sort of YouTube realizes there's a sort of something that is driving demand for that thing and then boosts the traffic. So that's very interesting to see how that pans out. And then again for another heat wave here. So that's quite interesting. And again, if we jump down, we can see the average view duration. Not too bad for this one, although it's still quite a low percentage of the overall length. But we've got a little spike here because of the sound test, I think. People are obviously quite interested in hearing the sound of these things. So you can see that's what's going on there. So you can see the click-through rate was quite high for that one as well. So that's always an interesting metric, although it seems a bit of a dark art. Sometimes you'll get a very low click-through rate, sometimes you'll get a high one. I think there's more to it than the quality of your title and thumbnail, which is what everybody seems to think. I think it's much more about the potential appetite for a given video. You know, so if you show it to the right kind of person, the click-through rate's going to be higher. So it kind of depends on the person that YouTube's showing it to. So it's not always about the quality of your title and thumbnail, I think. If we go back and look at one of the other videos that was one of the most successful ones, even to date, if I just change that back to the same period of time, up to the point I got monetized. So that one actually got me the most subscribers of all, I think, in that time period. And you can see it's very healthy on the view hours as well. And it was starting to ramp up near the end too. So if we jump into the views, and we're going to go to traffic source, we can see this green line. That's the YouTube suggested one. So that's really, really good when you see that jumping up. So if we just look at that, you can see it's sort of increasing the suggested views over time there. So that's encouraging. Even though the search volume is relatively static, and it's boosting up here a little bit, so maybe it was, I potentially put it up a place or two in the results. If we jump in and have a look at that, we can see it's got a good healthy click-through rate as well. And in terms of engagement, average view duration, which isn't bad at all, and a good nice level graph on this one too. So you can see how these kinds of factors play a reasonable part in influencing how YouTube deals with suggesting your content. So I mean, the key is just to look at the period of time where basically nothing was happening. Even though I was making videos fairly frequently, it took some of these more interesting videos that happened to coincide with much more obvious demand than just the videos that I sort of felt like I wanted to make. I had to stumble across some of those topics where there was real demand, and obviously demand that wasn't being satisfied. I think that's presumably the key to all of this. There were a couple of videos on the Fuji camera, but I don't think any of them went into the point that I did about the autofocus trick on this video. So it was answering a question that no one else had answered. So I think that's the key here, is really creating content that talks about stuff that no one else is talking about, and YouTube is very good at sort of picking that up and then distributing it. And it's the same with all those three relatively successful videos in this time period. No one had really gone into this fan in the level that I did here, including the sound tests and comparisons with other fans. The kind of reviews that were out there were sort of fairly obviously sponsored. This was a good high integrity review. It's my own product. I bought it myself, so I think there's value in that, and it's obviously quite a big brand, so it did quite well for me. And then going on to the keyboard, the ortholinear discussion. So this one again is actually interesting in a slightly different way. I don't think it was that I created a video that there was existing demand for that wasn't being sort of satisfied on YouTube. This was more that the content of the video was challenging people's kind of initial ideas on a topic, and the result of that was the engagement was very high. So there was a lot of comments and engagement with this video. If I jump into the comments, in fact, we can have a quick sort of flick through, and this was one of these really encouraging videos where some of the comments were just fantastic. So it was really super encouraging to read these, and lots of them too. So obviously that's a good signal to YouTube to sort of say, well, look, this is generating good engagement. So that was definitely super encouraging. When you see those comments coming in, obviously, it does motivate you, and you think you're doing something that people are finding useful. And so that definitely helped me keep going through that long 7-month period. It's almost like there's lots of different kind of potential ways a video might do well. It's definitely not just a black and white thing. I think those 3 videos all did reasonably well in their own way for various reasons. So the Fuji webcam one was sort of particularly timely and popped up at the right time for people. The Dyson review was one that kind of filled a gap in the content that was already on YouTube, and this one really provoked a lot of discussion and engagement because the topic was kind of challenging people's preconceptions about an existing idea. So 3 different kind of approaches with these 3 videos, and they all did reasonably well, so it's quite interesting to explore those patterns. So hopefully that's been interesting if you want to just kind of see my time frame. It's obviously you want to look at lots of different channels, and maybe you can spot the mistakes that I've made and how you might want to try and improve that if you set out to do this yourself, or if you're just generally encouraged, as I was, by the way it panned out given what I did you know, how many videos I've made. And in terms of the time I put into it, I was aiming to spend about an hour a day. Obviously, those early months, it was probably a lot more than that. I was going into the weekends a little bit, which is a bit tough on the family. So I tried to avoid that now, and I'm getting into this format of, you know, quick, focused recording and then editing, and not spending too much time each week and trying to get these videos out. So that's that efficiency kind of balance. Obviously, I don't want my production values to drop when I'm doing that either. But if it's been useful, don't forget to click the thumbs up button, like and subscribe, and hit the bell button to make sure you do get notified of my other videos. You know, this channel is going to be quite broad in its topic. I'm going to make content on lots of different ideas, and they're all going to be interesting. But of course, with different ideas coming out, YouTube might not suggest everything to you, because it's obviously, you know, it's very targeted on what it thinks you're interested in, and, you know, certain keywords. But obviously this channel is going to be looking at all kinds of things, and I think most people are going to find all of it interesting. So do hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.